speaker is Amanda Osuna. She is the Senior Manager of Talent Acquisition and Culture with the company that has become a good friend of Launchpad Recruitment. She has been in recruiting for 10 years, starting in the agency world and hiring for the manufacturing industry. She transitioned to the tech scene in 2015 and never looked back. Since her time in tech, she has recruited for all types of roles, specializing in sales and professional services. She has built her own recruiting team and now oversees both talent acquisition and culture and engagement departments at Accruent. She has led major company initiatives like creating and rolling out an interviewer certification program, implementing new company values, and working on globally aligning the company culture. In her free time, she likes to travel, read, spend time with her fiancé, stepson, and two dogs. Okay, Amanda Osuna, welcome.
All right, good morning everyone, Happy New Year. So this is going to be a little more collaborative, especially because we're a little bit smaller of a group today, so I'm going to ask some questions throughout the presentation. We'll start with an easy one, so just shout it out when you have an answer. Again, easy. What is the best thing that you ate during the holidays?
Beef Wellington.
Ooh, that's a good one. Okay. Anybody else have one? Ooh, that's good. Okay, what else?
Gingerbread.
Gingerbread, good one.
Prime rib.
Ooh, fancy, prime rib, okay. What else?
Shepherd's pie.
Shepherd's pie, ooh, that's a good one too.
Champagne.
That is a great one. Hey, that's a food group, alcohol, you know, it's fine. Anything else? Yes. Ooh, yum. Did you make it?
Actually, my husband did. It's long.
Nice. Okay, anything else?
Green chili mac and cheese.
Ooh, mac and cheese is always a good one. That's a favorite. Gosh, this is making me hungry now. I think I should have done this right before lunch. Well, thank you all for sharing. Again, like I said, this is going to be more of a collaborative session. What we're going to be talking about today is really diving into tips and tricks to get on the right path to find a great career for you in 2020. This is a great session because not only is this the first speaking engagement of the year, it's also the first speaking engagement of the decade, which is so exciting. A lot of pressure for me, right? But it's a great time to really evaluate your goals, look at what you can do to find that right career path, and then also reflect on the previous year. So we're going to be talking about a mix of things, again, that can align with your career path, as well as some personal development pieces that we do at our company as well. So going into it, the first thing I want to talk about today when it comes to finding the right career is finding your why. Now, this may seem a little unconventional, and I'll talk to you a little bit about what this means. Before I dive into this, does anyone know who Simon Sinek is?
Yes.
Okay. Can anyone tell me what he talks about with the golden circle or what that means? Yes?
It says that people buy why you do something, not how you do it.
Right. Right, exactly. So if you're looking at your why, you're looking at why you do the things that you do or why you're choosing the career path that you're interested in. With Simon Sinek, when he talks about the golden circle, it's all formulated around why you're choosing the things that you're choosing, not just doing them. Specifically with companies, if you look at Accruent, where I work, we are a real estate and facilities software management company. I'm probably already boring you with that title because it's long, it's boring, and it's not exciting. But when we're talking about what we do on a regular basis, we talk about how we're helping our customers, how we help them during Hurricane Harvey, how our software helps save people time so they can spend time back with their families. Those are the things that we're concentrating on when it comes to our why. Similar to Accruent, if you're looking at companies that do their why really well, Apple is a really good example. Apple started off as a very small company that grew into a large organization that sells several different types of products, but people buy them because of the brand name recognition and because their why is so strong. Another good example of a why is Nike. Anyone see their commercials recently? They're incredibly motivating, right? They're very tied to things that are going on in the community because they're really tied to the people they're focusing on, not as much the product. Can anyone else think of a company that does a why really well instead of a what?
AGB.
Say that again?
HEB.
HEB, ooh, HEB's favorite of Texas, right? Absolutely.
Subaru,
Subaru, why is that?
just because their commercials are usually really good.
I haven't seen one of their commercials in a while, but I'll take your word.
On their giving.
Oh, okay.
Thanksgiving program.
Okay, perfect. That's a great example. Okay.
And dogs.
And dogs, always important. Okay, what else?
It's about helping back on the Subaru is helping to achieve your work-life balance, so it's showing how the car supports your adventurous side and finding that time outside of work to
Oh, great.
enjoy and be able to manage what you're doing, right?
Yeah,
A lot
absolutely.
of safety.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. What else? Southwest, they're all focused on their customers, right? They're focused on building their employee brand. They're a great example. Anything else you can think of? Or what about companies that don't do a why well?
Peloton does why well. Peloton?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good one. Although they just were in a lot of heat for their controversial ad that was all over the news. I don't know if y'all saw that, but yeah, their stock plummeted recently. But I do love Peloton, so big supporter. Let's see, Chick-fil-A, also a really big one of good service and a why. McDonald's would be like the opposite, right? They're probably not as strong. They're one of Chick-fil-A's competitors. They don't do that why as well. So if you're looking at, again, when we're talking about personally relating to your why, these are the questions I want you to look in and ask yourself. So most people, when they start off on their career path, they don't ask themselves why they're choosing to do what they're doing and if it's actually something that's going to make them happy at the end of the day. A good example is when I graduated from college, I took a job with Goldman Sachs as a financial analyst. I can tell you, I hate math. I hate sitting in a room by myself, and I hate being on a computer all day, sitting at a desk. So why I thought that I could be a financial analyst is beyond me, but that's what I thought I wanted to do. Why? Because it was a lot of money when I graduated college, and that was my motivation. Thankfully, I had enough common sense to realize that was not a good fit, so I took a job for $10 an hour as a front desk coordinator at a recruiting agency because I wanted to be around people. So my driving factor and my why is to help people become better, whether that is bringing them into a company to get them the right job, or to make sure we're retaining that talent at the company. So that is my why, my driving force. So if you're looking at these questions, think about what you really want to do and what motivates you. So what makes you feel alive? What makes you the happiest? And some of these I know are a little cliche and corny, but if you're really trying to figure out what your career path is, these are great questions to start with. Okay, next one, what are your strengths? So what are some of the things that you're really good at? Some of the things that you do the best? And so many people hate diving into what they're actually good at. So I would urge you, if that's not you and you don't want to think about the things that you are really great at, ask the people around you because they can help you too, right? So ask your family, what are some of the things that you think I do really well at here in the family or in my career path? Okay? And then also, where do you add the greatest value? That's similar to strengths, but when it's coming to where do you add the greatest value, what are some of the things that are really great selling points for you? And think about that too, right? So if you're looking at some of the previous jobs you've had, what are some of the things that you feel you've added the most to a team? So I actually did this exercise 3 months ago with my team, and the thing that I realized that I'm the best at is being creative and bringing more of a strategic vision to the team. If I was in a company that was large, let's say, Apple or Google, for example, I may not be able to be as creative as I can be at Accruent because we are significantly smaller. We are 1,200 plus people. I have the ability to run different departments, whereas if I went to a company with thousands of people, I may not have that same creativity level. So that's a good thing for me to note is in my career, a large company is probably not the best career path for me and my strengths as well. And then the last question, so how are you really looking at measuring your life, right? So again, this is a little bit of a cliche question, if you will, but if you're looking at the end of the day, what do you actually want to be remembered for, right? What do you want people to say about you, and how do you want to have impacted the world and made a difference? And so much of this can come up in your job, in your career. So looking at these first to think about what are some of the ways that I can impact myself and the community before choosing a career path as well. Any questions on any of that? Yes.
Think about the strengths assessments, have you thought about like the Gallup strengths-based leadership, are those helpful at all, do you think?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would definitely recommend taking some of those personality assessments. The Gallup Strengths Finder is a great one. We actually do that at work. There's all sorts of free ones. There's one that's escaping my mind. It's really popular. Enneagram, that's another popular one.
What was
My Enneagram, Myers-Briggs. Let's see, what's some of these other ones?
Emergenetics.
What was that?
Emergenetics.
I have not heard of that one. What is that one?
It's basically the same thing. You answer a 100-question questionnaire, and it gives you different thinking patterns that people have, social, analytical, things like that. It's pretty accurate.
Yeah.
What's that? No. My previous company paid for it, so I'm not sure if it's free actually. We're just like,
The Enneagram, I think it's $12. The other one that you mentioned, I think that one's $12 to $24 for your first 5, and then it gets a little more pricey if you want the full list. There's so many different personality tests out there right now that you can take just to get to know yourself a little bit better, especially if you're looking at what type of work environment you would be good in, what are some of your strengths that you bring to the table, and then hopefully eventually being on board with a company that will be able to pay for some things like that too. Any other questions on the why or the questions piece? Okay, just wanted to show you the golden circle and what that looks like. So again, Simon Sinek is the one who created the golden circle. He wrote the book called Start With Why. So that's a really great read, again, if you want to dive in more into, okay, what does my why look like? How can I really focus on that in 2020 and moving forward? So he breaks it down into the fact that most people and most companies really start with the what, and they don't start with the why. So they don't start with the heart behind why they're doing the things they're actually doing. So the thought is, instead of starting out and into the circle from your what, how, and why, you start in to outside of the circle, starting with your why. I'll give you a couple minutes or a couple seconds to take a picture of that. So again, it's Simon Sinek, it's S-I-N-E-K is his last name. And you can, if you don't want to buy the book, there are a ton of YouTube videos with him talking about this exact thing.
What's the name of that book again?
Start with why. Alrighty, so next. This is probably my favorite thing about the beginning of the year, like so many people, especially a new decade, is really getting organized and setting goals for yourself. This is going to help career-wise, also for personal purposes. We do this as a company, and we set goals together, not only professionally, but personally, to really work on personal and professional development. So here are some of the things that we do that I wanted to share with you all. A lot of what you're going to be doing, especially for 2020, is so important, or importantly tied back to reflecting on the last year. If you wanted to do the last decade, we had some people at our company that did that instead, which just takes significantly longer. But really spending time thinking about what are some of the things that went really well last year. If you're like me, you typically only remember all the things that went wrong the last year, or the things you didn't do as well, or the things you didn't finish that you wanted to complete by 2020. But it's so important to celebrate those wins, whether they're big wins or small wins. We just did this as a team as well, and after sitting down and realizing, wow, there are so many things we accomplished and we don't celebrate them enough. So again, sitting down and looking at also some of the things that you do want to carry into 2020 and want to focus on as well. Okay, and then next, writing down your 2020 goals. You can see this stat in the upper right-hand corner that says those who set goals are 10 times more successful than those who don't have any in place. People who write their goals down are 40% more likely to accomplish them just by actually writing it down. So this is a practice we just adopted in the last 3 years. We used to, as a company, never really write our goals down when it came to departments. And so it would be, okay, well, we talked about in the January strategic, and now it's June, and we can't really remember what we discussed, and so we think we may have hit our goal, but we're not positive. You don't want to do that and be that person midway through the year. You want to make sure you're writing your goals down and are consistent about it. One of the other things I personally do is I have what's called a Start Today journal. So I write my goals down every single day, so I remember them every day. Sometimes I look at them and I'm like, oh God, I forgot I wrote that, and I'm gonna have to do that at some point, and I'm not excited about it, but it reminds me that I committed to it and I wrote it down. So I would strongly urge you to look at those goals and write them down as often as possible. And then next is Start Today journal. They actually sell it at Target, fun fact. They just started selling it. Okay, yes.
Can you tell me how this would be diverse from a to-do list?
That is a great question, and actually that came up, I think, a few weeks ago when we were talking about it as a team. So a to-do list is very tactical driven, right? So if you're looking at, like my to-do list today says I need to go return a bunch of my Christmas gifts, unfortunately for my mom, but that's what my to-do list says. My goal list is something that is more long-term that I'm focusing on, that I need to break down more individually by like quarters. So a good example of one of my yearly goals for 2020 is I want to, Kathy mentioned this, but I started an interviewer certification program at Accruent. My goal by the end of 2020 is to take that to other companies and to have my first paying client for that business. So y'all are the first ones I've ever told that to out loud, so I'm putting that in the universe, but that's one of my goals for 2020, right? So then I would break that down into quarterly goals of, okay, how am I gonna start that? So for Q1, I started doing business coaching, so that's one. I'm also gonna start pitching it to other people in the recruiting industry, so that would be two. So it's something that is more long-term that you know you have to accomplish over a time series versus something that's immediate and more tactical. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Any other questions? All right. Who knows what SMART goals are? Oh, a lot of you, okay. Can anyone tell me what SMART stands for? Yes.
Specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound.
Perfect.
Or variation on those.
Perfect. Do you want to go in a little bit more depth about what that is and what it looks like?
A specific goal would be something that you can put into one or two sentences.
Right.
Not something, and it's not vague. Like, if not, I'm going to go to fly, is I'm going to sign up for flying lessons.
Right.
I will study the pilot license test by this date. I'm not missing completed by that date. Those would be the individual goals that make up the goal.
Right. Time bound.
Time bound, or there's variations on what each one means, but they're all similes and so on.
So then that's a perfect example. What a lot of people mistakenly do is set a very vague goal. Like for 2019, I said I wanted to get better at public speaking. Okay, well that's very vague and it has no measurables attached to it. It has no specific timeline. It really had no specific goals that I could achieve. So when I was looking at my goals this past week for 2019, I thought, well, I don't know if I can check that off or not. There's no way that I could have measured that. So you want to make sure you're putting something specifically tied to that. So instead of saying, I want to get better at public speaking, what I did for 2020 was say, by the end of 2020, I want to get paid to speak at an event for over 1,000 people. That's very specific, very potentially achievable. I don't know about the end of 2020, but again, it's very result oriented. So that is really what you're looking at when you're talking about SMART goals. There are so many different things you can look at online to find about SMART goals. So if you have any questions, I would urge you to go just Google it. Honestly, there's so many different things that you can look at that will give you more information about what that looks like as well. And then similar to what we talked about already, really breaking down your goals into more of a roadmap. You don't have to do it by quarters. This is just really easy for me to understand from a business standpoint. We do quarterly reviews at our company, so it's easy for me to do it on a personal level as well. I actually make my fiance do this as well, and he hates it, but it's fine. We do quarterly reviews on all of the goals that we set for that previous quarter. So again, if my specific goal for 2020 at the end of the year is to have my first paying client for the interviewer training program, I need to figure out what I'm going to do every single quarter to accomplish that. And then I break it down even further and I do monthly goals too, right? So if I'm going to do that, what do I need to do this month to make sure that I'm starting to work on it? And then even further, on a weekly basis, what am I doing to even move the needle for that month, right? So really breaking it down as much as possible. Some of it seems like it's a lot of work and detail. It is, and I would urge you to really focus on maybe 1 or 2 goals a year, because anything more than that is going to take a lot of time. So that's the main one that I'm focusing on for 2020, and then everything else is on the back burner until that one gets accomplished. Okay. Any other questions about goals? Anyone already make a goal for 2020 or make their New Year's resolution? Yes.
Well, I've written down some things, yes.
Yeah? Anything you want to share?
Find a job.
That's a good one. Absolutely. Yes.
I already broke my resolution.
You broke it? What was
I
it?
made that, not to eat so many sweets.
They had fudge here this morning and chocolate chip cookies. So that's hard. Okay, anyone else? Alrighty. So if you have any questions about this, let me know. But again, there are so many different things on the internet right now that you can find about goal setting, especially since we're in a new year. Okay, now talking about the important stuff. So how to make sure you're looking for the right career. How many of you feel like you've been in a job before that was really not suited for you and what you wanted to do?
Everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Pretty much everybody. So that's what we're really focusing on today, is how do we make sure that doesn't happen? Now, I understand, and I've been here before, there are some times where you're in a position where you have to find a job and it doesn't matter if it aligns with your career goals. What matters is that you're paying the bills. But these are the things that you can do while you're in that job to find the perfect career for you and how to make that work. Okay? So we already talked about this, but really aligning your why with your career goals. So again, great example. If I had taken a job as a financial analyst, I would be miserable, because that is not what I want to do for the rest of my life. I want to be in a job where I'm talking to people, where I'm around people constantly, where I'm communicating in person or email or IM or whatever, but I'm always communicating with people and I'm helping them. That is my passion. Now, if I had taken that job, that would have aligned with none of that, or my why. So again, really focusing on, once you find your why, is your career path aligned with that as well? This is another big one that so many people do not do. It's really imperative that before you start looking for a career, that you make sure the industry of that position aligns with what you think is a culture fit for you. So an example, how many of you are in tech or have been in tech? Okay, a good chunk of you. I think we all know that tech is different than every other industry in the world, right? My brother-in-law works for a trees company, and so they're very traditional in their views. I told him that we had open PTO, and he was just so disgusted and confused and could not wrap his mind around it, because that is not their life. They also go in the office every day from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. They cannot work from home ever, and they rarely have holidays off. In tech, I think we all know that is not how it works, and so if I ever made a career change, I would not want to leave tech. That's my personal view, but I know that, right? And so if I were to interview at his company, it would be a huge culture shock to me to realize I don't have the flexibility to work from home on Fridays if I want, or I don't have the flexibility to take 3 weeks off for the year. Those are really critical things. Now, on the flip side, same with tech, right? There are some people that don't do well in the tech environment, especially looking at different companies. Even in tech, if you look at a startup company to a company that's a lot larger, those cultures are going to be totally different. So it's really important to do your research on not only the industry, but the individual company. You can find that all over the internet as well. You can go on Glassdoor, which is the most popular. Indeed also has reviews now. I'm trying to think of some of the other ones. You can obviously go on LinkedIn, as a lot of companies have Instagrams, Twitter feeds, and then there's Fairy Godboss, and I think it's In Her Site. for females. So again, lots of different options to research these companies to see if they would be a good fit for you. And then we already talked about this a little bit with the personality piece, but there are also a lot of options for online career quizzes. If there's anything that you want to look at and say, I just don't know if this is a good fit for me, I don't know if there's something else that I might be interested in, take a quiz. A lot of them are free as well, so you can just pop online and find something and see if it will put you in the direction of something that might be a better fit for you as well. Any questions on this? Alrighty. So these are some questions to ask yourself when you're looking at your career path and what you're moving into. So again, good start into the why and what you're really looking for. So good one, if I could choose one friend to trade jobs with, I choose blank because of blank. I've always wondered what it would be like to blank because it's interesting to me because of this. And sometimes it really does take asking yourself these questions to figure out what is it that I actually want to do. And even if you're not changing careers completely, but maybe just trying to figure out what is my next step? What do I feel like I'm interested in? 2 years ago, I would have never thought I was going to switch over from recruiting to do something totally different, but here we are. And if I had asked myself some of these questions, it may have happened a lot sooner. So these are great reminders to really dive into what are the things you enjoy and what are some of the things you really don't like and want to do in your career. Did everyone get a picture of this? Good? Okay. All right, so Kathy spent a lot of time talking about this, which is great, and you're all already ahead of the curve because you're doing it right now, so great job, everyone, especially the first week of January. Appreciate it. But a big piece to finding a new job is to network, and I know so many people don't like to do it, but it is so imperative. I can tell you from firsthand experience, if you are an employer referral or someone that has networked with people in the organization, your name goes right up to the top above anybody else's. That is the best way to find a job. So these are just some of the organizations that are in Austin. That's really hard to read, sorry. That one's Job Seekers Network, and then top right is Austin Chamber. So again, this is a very small pool of some of the groups that you can join. Some of these specifically are around finding jobs, like Austin Digital Jobs. How many of you have ever been to one of their events? Okay. They're great. I would highly recommend them. They have really top-notch companies that go to their events. And then there's other ones where it's solely just for networking, like Network After Work, or other groups like Chamber of Commerce, Austin Young Chamber of Commerce, where you can join those to get to know people, give back to the community, but also a great source for networking. Every single one of these groups here, we have found candidates in from a recruiter's perspective. So everything you can possibly think of and join is a networking opportunity. Just another good example is I was the president of our sororities alumni chapter, and in the last 5 years, I've helped 7 of those women find jobs. Not even because they were looking for jobs or they came to those events looking for a job. It's solely just because we network so much and we knew so many people in the community. So keep that in mind when networking. You never know who you're going to meet or who you're going to end up talking to. Anyone need to take a picture of this? Good. All right. Update your social media. So the clean sweep is just really fresh start in 2020, mostly on like Twitter, Instagram. That's all stuff everybody should already know. But the most important one about this is making sure you're updating and refreshing your LinkedIn page. So many people have out-of-date photos, so if they come in for an interview, they don't even recognize you because you don't look anything like your picture. So make sure you're updating your LinkedIn. Also make sure you have a professional headshot. Selfies are not professional, sorry. Also, don't have pictures with anyone else in the picture because they may not know who you are, which one you are. And also, find events where they have the opportunity to get a headshot for free. That's our biggest complaint we hear is people are like, well, I don't want to have to pay for a headshot. They're like $300. I've never paid for a headshot in my life. I've always gone to events where they've had the opportunity to do one for free, or worst case scenario, my sister has taken a picture of me on my iPhone and that was my headshot. So really, again, it doesn't have to be a ton of money, just make sure something professional is on your LinkedIn. Also make sure you're updating the actual content on your LinkedIn page. You don't want it to be anything out of date or old. You want to make sure that everything is fresh, so that way if anyone comes to your LinkedIn page, it matches your resume as well, okay? And then the last one that is a very underutilized tip is make sure you're active on LinkedIn. So by active, I don't mean that you're updating your information. I mean that you're actually posting things, that you're liking things, and that you're sharing information. It doesn't have to be a lot, but if you actually just, let's say, reshare an article about Launchpad, every time one of your friends likes your post, it will show up on their friend's post that they liked it. So that's great opportunity for you to get visibility that you don't even realize you're getting and more people to see your LinkedIn. We have hired a lot of people solely because of the fact that they've been active on LinkedIn. And again, it doesn't have to be you're writing your own article, you're doing all of these things. All you have to do is reshare a post. That's it. Or like something. Just become more active and you'll see that more people are responding to you and connecting with you as well. Yes.
Not only liking posts, but commenting on them.
Yes, great one. Yeah, commenting is a great one.
It helps both you and the person that posts.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other thoughts on social media? All right. So then the last piece is just to keep going all year. It's really easy to be motivated in 2020 at the beginning of the year when everything is fresh and we're resetting and everyone is in this mode of putting goals together and finding a job. But it gets really hard when you get through the end of this quarter, when you get through the middle of the year to keep being motivated. So again, those quarterly reviews are so important. And again, you don't have to do quarterly reviews. It can be bi-monthly. It can be however often works for you. But making sure to check in on those goals that you set at the beginning of the year and those tips of, am I still doing my best to find a career? Am I still doing my best to make sure I'm at networking events every single month? Am I being active on LinkedIn? Am I being proactive about finding companies? Making sure that you're staying up to date with the own goals that you set. And then again, revisiting your action plan and having a positive mindset. All of it can be shifted just with your mindset as well. I know this is really hard, especially when you're struggling to find the right position for you. But again, making sure to really have as positive of a mindset as possible. All right, and that is all I have. That was so fast. Any questions for me about goals, jobs, interview tips, any of the things? We have 20 minutes, yes.
I'm sorry, I missed the details on how to research the cultural aspect of the company. You named a couple of websites.
Yeah, Glassdoor, LinkedIn, in her site.
In her site?
Fairy God Boss. There's some, oh, and Indeed as well.
Thank you.
Yes.
You can also, if you're connected to someone on LinkedIn that used to work there, you can reach out to them, because if they didn't have a good time, they might want to dish on it. And if they did have a good time, they might want to tell you about breakfast.
Yeah, that's true. That's a difficult one, though. I agree, but we had one candidate who accepted an offer and then reached out to someone who got fired, and they didn't know they got fired, and so they bashed their current. I mean, they got fired, right? So that's a tricky one too. Yes.
Any insights on what it means when you look up a company on LinkedIn and absolutely none of their employees have a profile?
None of their employees have one? Like they're all tied to that company, but
They're just, it's the first time it's ever happened to me. I looked up a company, and I always look up the employees because I want to put the name of an HR person on the cover.
Right.
Yes?
Yeah.
And no one was there. There were no listings.
Was it a large company or what size company was it?
I really couldn't tell because it wouldn't.
Amish barn builders?
I know companies that have defense contracts where everybody's got top secret clearance, they're not allowed to be on social media at all.
It was a smaller company.
That's,
That's the impression I got. But I haven't run into that before.
Was at least the company on LinkedIn?
Yes,
The company was, but
Yes.
not there. Because
but none of their employees.
a lot of startups
Profile.
don't have a lot of people.
Yeah, my only other recommendation would be go to look at the Glassdoor, see if anyone's written reviews. on the company or any other, like Indeed,
Check
to
the
see.
news to see if they're
Yeah,
done
yeah,
Bradstreet.
exactly. Yeah, make sure they have an address.
Especially if it's a real company.
Yeah.
Question about how to manage your LinkedIn when you've been out of work for a little bit, like having some consulting stuff or something official. Is it better to put whatever you've been up to or just leave it blank?
Yeah, so in the description where it lists your jobs, I would put what you have done, and then there's a top area where you can put in the summary some more information. So we have a lot of people that put what they have been doing or, you know, got laid off recently, been doing projects looking for this type of work in that summary section. Then there's also people that put it, excuse me, at the top with their name. I don't know if y'all have seen that. A lot of recruiters do it. Well, they'll say looking for X type of candidate or whatever. So you can also put it there if you want, but I think the summary would probably be fine. Yeah.
So any negative of putting like independent consultant and then some of the things that.
No, I would say do that over not putting anything, yeah. Yes.
I noticed we didn't include anything about the resume. So what are your thoughts of because there seems to be an ongoing discussion on LinkedIn, particularly about the resume versus LinkedIn and which one you can prioritize, and the resume is in the passing,
Yeah.
et cetera.
I would say they first, sorry y'all, they absolutely should match 100%. We've had candidates come in where they updated their resume, they forgot to update their LinkedIn. We've had interviewers call them out for it. It's just been strange because it makes them look like they're trying to hide something when in reality they just forgot to update it. So I would say make sure they always match. Especially if you're going to interview for a job, and there's a lot of recommendations to tweak your resume to every job that you're looking for, which makes sense, and you should tweak it, but not so much that like you have a different job title every time, to where if you went to your LinkedIn page and it wouldn't make sense. So as long as it matches 90% of the way, then you should be fine. Again, as long as it's not something like dates or job title that are completely misaligned. But I would make sure to update both of them as much as possible. Yes.
We looked at a thing on LinkedIn as to how recruiters use LinkedIn, and LinkedIn has some built-in default filters. And one of them was that that the person has been either in their current job for 1 to 5 years or something like that, or sometimes they've been in their current industry for a certain length of time, and the industry designation is relatively new on LinkedIn. So when you do searches, do you use that filter, or is that something that keeps you perhaps from finding people that?
Yeah, industry not as much. We do it more in sales because that is a hard requirement for our sales roles. So it depends on the job. If it is for anything else, we do the tenure feature as well, because especially if it's for positions where we want someone who's experienced, we don't someone that's been at a different job every 6 months in the last 7 years. So we use it, but it doesn't automatically disqualify people either. Yeah.
And what is that filter that you're using with regard to sales?
The industry. Yeah.
So what's the best way to address the aspect that makes it look like you're job hopping when really you're going in for a small portion of a project, short 3-month stint or something like that? Stints. But if you look at the resume, it occurred to me the other day, I look at that and look at the timeline and think, God, this person's job hopping, and that's not me at all. That was the extent of my portion of the project that I worked on. Where's the best place to address that so that they understand you are not just job hopping, that really is project limited?
So you were a contractor for that long?
Most of my projects were in grad school, and so all the projects that most of the projects we were working on were with actual clients.
Okay.
So we went in with a real specific, this is what we were doing, this is what we were assisting them. So they were, within a semester.
Okay.
So on my resume, it looks very
Right.
choppy, and it's like, how do I overcome that?
What we typically recommend is putting it in the cover letter. However, not every recruiter reads the cover letter. So what we've also recommended is putting it as like a quick summary underneath your job title on the resume and then on the LinkedIn profile. So right where you would normally put the bulleted areas, put it above that and then below the job title. So it's just a quick explanation of was working on this project for 3 months, consulting with a group or whatever the case may be. Good question.
she could also, if she had her own LLC or, umbrella, if you will, and then whatever those projects that you were doing under maybe your specific company name, do that, or if it was under education.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yes.
I have a question about resume format. So knowing that the distinction of how those are the trendy resume format, the list of things like that. I invested the time to get that done. Anyway, what are your thoughts on just having the traditional, more written form versus the attractive ones?
Totally fine, and you'll see a lot of ATSs through different companies will mess it up anyway, so the format will be all screwed up once they've got that pretty resume, and so it really does not matter.
Pretty well for in person.
Yeah, exactly.
Use the .doc, plain text with, whatever you throw in the ATS, say, keyboard characters. I was told recently that even some of the more obscure keyboard characters that's not a format, so I had that on the website of the title.
Yeah, yes.
Don't know if you've mentioned, which survives the ATS best, PDF or Word?
Let's see, PDF is probably better. PDF, you just have less of formatting issues that you can run into. With Word, sometimes it changes it. It actually changes some of our Word documents to notes, and then the font is all messed up. It's so strange. But then also what I would recommend if you're working with staffing agencies, sometimes they'll tweak your resume, and you want to make sure they don't do that without asking. So I would always submit a PDF if you're working with agencies as well. Yes.
In regard to networking, I've got a large gap in employment. I've recently found out that someone that I worked with over 15 years ago has returned to an organization that I'm interested in reconnecting with. I found this out from another friend that I have reconnected with that has gone back to work for the same organization. Should I try to cold call this person that has not spoken to me in over 15 years myself, and I have the ability to do that, or should I allow this person that I have reconnected with to make that connection and see if I can network that way?
Did y'all leave on good terms?
Yeah, yes, that's fine. It's just the time. It's really just the amount of time.
Yeah. I would say absolutely you reach out to them, because no one is going to be a bigger advocate for you than yourself, right? And you're going to be able to sell yourself better than the other person who may say, hey, you remember that person from 15 years ago? Well, they're interested in a job. Well, they're not going to be top of mind unless if you reach out and you really make the effort. So I would absolutely say that you should reach out.
I found a job online, and I did a little sleuthing, and I found out who the CEO was, someone from Chief Staff's job. I'm connected to him by like 30 connections. So I did outreach to all these people and said, do you actually know this person, or are you just connected?
Yeah.
All the people said, I don't know the person, I'm just connected. Is it rude of me to do a personal outreach and say, we've got a whole lot of connections between us? I saw this position, because it's a blind position, I just did the legwork to figure out who the CEO had to be. And, is it cool for me to do that, or is that?
Yes, do whatever you can. I will say from the recruiter standpoint, it's not the recruiter's favorite path, but yes, absolutely, because I cannot tell you how many candidates we've gotten put in front of us before hundreds of people, because they've reached out to our CEO or the president or someone on the C team who's like, hey, I don't know this person, but they reach out to me on LinkedIn. Can you make sure you contact them, because we're following up on behalf of that person. So I would absolutely say do whatever you can, especially if you did all the research on your own. Yes.
Yeah, because it looks like I stalked him now. Like, this person's looking your profile like multiple times.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I just wasn't sure if I should do that.
No, go for it. Yes.
So speaking of that, in my field, sales, and that's the first person that I reached to, is the CEO. So the thing I do on LinkedIn is I'll
ask them if they want to connect first. And if they respond and connect, then I send a message and I ask them, you know, I would love to have a little chat with you. There's either a position that's open, or are you looking at, you know, growing or anything like that, and then I send a message. I've had a lot of success.
Do you think I should ask Hank before I say, hey, I'm just...
Are you already connected or no?
No, we're still getting connections.
Yeah, I would probably connect first. Because do you have a premium account?
I will.
I would say it's up to you then. I wouldn't say you necessarily have to be connected to them. It would be like a nice to have if you were, but if you don't want to wait.
I mean, we just have so many connections and common.
Yeah, I think either one is
I
probably.
would explain it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't just say it doesn't accept your connection and
Right.
you have.
Exactly.
Yeah. So just explain it.
Because I thought it was like an extra step too.
You could also ask someone else, our mutual connections, to make that connection for you.
I did, but they said they actually really didn't know me to connect with them, so.
Well, then easy, connect with them. I mean,
Is
if
there
you
a
so
position-
willing-
Clearly he connects with everybody, right?
Anybody, don't worry about it.
But I will say, you made a really good point too. Most of the people we see do that are sales, and that's really it. So you have to think of finding a job as if you're a salesperson. You have to sell yourself, put yourself out there, and it's difficult, but it has to be done because no one is going to sell you like yourself, right?
But
Yes.
I just want to make sure I didn't blow it at the beginning before.
Well, you're at the same point of view.
The worst they can say is no, you got your foot in the door, which is the most important part.
That's true, yeah.
So I have a LinkedIn question, and anybody here can answer it if they know. So I've got all these connections, we do all the connections meeting in here and all of that, and I start going through my list, and I'm like, I don't know who the vast majority of these people are. Is there any way within LinkedIn to add a note to connections so that you can put something in there that says, this is how I met that person?
I would love that, but I don't think there is anything that
There is a way to export your network.
Is there?
So you could add that note, it'll come back.
Oh, like an Excel document?
Yeah, it'll come back. I've done that before. It's like, hey, I don't know why I asked this person.
Same, yeah.
And so when I dump it, and I get more information than just that little title, will actually give you the title.
Okay, well that's helpful, yeah. Okay, any other questions? Interview questions? Resume questions?
What kind of people do recruitment like?
That's a good question. So we are hiring all the time for everything, it feels like, yeah. We are hiring, I think the last time I checked the website was for like 120 different jobs across the US and globally. We have really started to move away from what people talk about as a culture fit and trying to find someone who is a fit for the industry and the type of organization that we are. And what I mean by that is 5 years ago when you talked about, I want to find someone who's a values fit, or I want to find someone who's a culture fit. There is a very specific box that those people fit into, right? And so you're not looking at diversity, you're not looking at different types of backgrounds when you're bringing these people on board. And so that was one of the things we've really shifted away from, is focusing on bringing in different types of people. So a good example of that is we used to only hire people with college degrees. That has shifted in the last 5 years. And so one of our best managers on staff before she came to Accruent was a manager at Starbucks. So those are the types of people we're looking for. Is similar to what Kathy mentioned earlier, we very much don't care if you have the exact experience on the resume or the job description. What we care about is if you have 80% of it, but you seem like a really hard worker, you have great experience in some other form of area or training, something like that, and then we can build up that resume, help you grow, and then promote you. We're huge on opportunities within the company as well, and what I mean by that is we have several people who are in different departments than what they started out in. We have people who started as a sales rep who've actually moved into corporate development, people who've started as project managers and moved into consulting roles. We've had people who actually were on the people teams as an analyst move into a sales ops role. So it's one of the great things about the company is that you have so many opportunities to figure out, okay, does this actually work for me or does it not? Can I move somewhere else? He's our learning and development manager. He's been on staff 8 years. He started in cloud ops. He had no experience in people teams, no experience in training, and he was going to leave the company because he said, I just can't do these hours anymore. With cloud apps, we're always on call, I'm exhausted. So they said, what do you want to do? So similar to these questions, he talked about the fact that he loves training. So they moved him into a trainer role on our learning and development team, where that literally would have never happened. He would have never gotten that job if he had applied externally because he had zero experience. And so he was able to move over to that team. Now, 4 years later, he is the manager of that entire department. So those are the things that we're really focused on as far as growing people and making sure we want to retain that talent here. So as far as what we're hiring for, literally everything. In every department, we're really heavily hiring for sales right now. Specifically with that one, we do need experience within the industry. We're hiring for consultants, AR reps, I think we have an HR admin open, some accounting roles, professional services, so that'd be project managers, consultants. But I would recommend going to look at the website. So it's accruent.com/careers. And that's Accruent, ACCRUENT. And if you went to the job fair in the last 2 years, that's where it's been. So you got to see our office. We're located in the Domain, right behind Rock Rose. Yes.
My question has to do with entrepreneurs as opposed to employees of companies. If you have been a primary entrepreneur for years and you're putting a resume out there for Fortune 500 companies, do you see a detriment there for your resume? As being a recruiter, I'm asking you personally.
Yeah, so no, I wouldn't say so, especially if you explain what you did at that company, and then usually during the phone screen you can explain, why you're looking for a career change. But no, I would not say it's a detriment.
I guess I wasn't clear. As an entrepreneur, maybe I was working as a contract, not working for a company, but a contract with a company.
Yeah.
So that contract, without disclosing everything about my business,
Yeah, that's a really good question. I would recommend putting it in the cover letter or somewhere on your LinkedIn of why you're looking for a different path. So if you're looking to go maybe into like a full-time role and you've only been in contracting positions or more recently, explaining why you're wanting to make that transition. Because I think that would be the concern, right? Is, okay, well, why are they wanting to do this now? And are they going to stay here? And just making sure to explain that somewhere on that LinkedIn page, somewhere in the cover letter too.
I think that's a big question. Why is he going to stay here?
Yeah. And if you address that head on, that's the best way to do it, because there's a 50-50 shot the recruiter is going to call you back of, it just depends on the recruiter, right? And what their situation is, what they're looking for. So I would recommend putting it front and center so that way you've addressed it immediately on that cover page or on that LinkedIn page too. Yeah.
Speaking to that, I think it's easy to be ambiguous with accomplished-oriented achievements that you have in your resume. So you have sales managers say that you're just trying to describe the amount of people that you outreach to in your sales position. I think that's a really easy way to also highlight your entrepreneurial successes. Say I've had, 20-something contracts, or I don't know the scope of your work, but just talk about the amount of clients that you've made, the amount of contracts that you've closed.
I have a CV that accompanies my resume. And I'm looking for sales management right now. That's not really what I would say my capacity is. This is kind of scaling down. Is a age-appropriate endeavor, trying to tweak back a little bit on.
I think it's easy to also highlight the position or the skills that you need for those positions in a way that ties back to your previous experience.
Right, and train that I have.
Yeah, exactly. I've trained X amount of employees and accomplished this with the company.
Okay. Any last question before we wrap it up? All right, sounds good. So hopefully this gives you some good tips to go into 2020 with some goal setting, whether that's on a personal level or really looking for a new career path. If you have any questions related to really anything regarding recruiting, if you want some help with your resume, with your LinkedIn, feel free to shoot me an email. My email is Osuna, O-S as in Sam, U-N as in Nancy, A, at accruent.com. You can also connect with me on LinkedIn and message me there as well. Just remind me where we met, because like you, I have 3,000 connections. So make sure to tell me. But again, if you need any help, any questions, feel free to reach out. And thank you all so much for having me today, and Happy New Year.